Good afternoon. My name is Rachel Allen, and I'm an integrative lifestyle coach. I like and love and get to work with individuals just like you who are ready to make changes mentally, physically, and or spiritually. I came into my own change through some physical changes, the necessity of physical changes, beginning with mindset and lifestyle, and then moved into more spiritual, and have found that all of that has been all-encompassing, well-rounded, and allowed me to create some pretty clear rhythm rituals in my life. I'm going to use the word rituals, actually. I prefer the word rituals because there's things that I have to do or prefer to do to maintain a level of peace, serenity, even in the midst of change in my life. No matter what's going on in the outer world, I have a sense of I'm home and I'm safe. And I'm going to say not perfectly, but every time the world outside or something changes in my life, I definitely know how to come back to home base much more quickly and much more effortlessly. I'm going to use those words too. And I believe that's what practice and ritual is about for me. The question of the body of my affairs was brought up, and so the idea of our physicality or the physical nature of our lives, the extension of our mindset, the extension of our spiritual reality, and how we begin to, especially when so much, I'm going to say, disruption is happening in the outer world, what to address first, right? It can feel sometimes like when what we've walked through in 2020 and leading into 2021, our financial world is questionable. Some of us, our jobs have changed or not yet been replaced. For some of us, relationships changed, lost. So there's maybe some grief loss work in that. But it's how do we begin to focus on or reconstruct a life that is of deeper meaning or of value. And that for me always begins with the assessment. The assessment as a personal trainer, we look to the physicality of the individual, what they can or cannot do. We look for what we call gross deficits in the body and in the being, and we've addressed those issues first. Spiritually speaking, we look to what has brought us to our knees, right? What has brought us to a state of surrender in our life. And so as a practitioner who looks at all of these arenas of any individual in life, we like to look at life, and is their life, are your moments, your minutes mirroring what your heart desires? And so we do a basic day assessment to find out how my day, how my minutes, how my moments are being shared, circulated, and are they congruent with where I see myself when I close my eyes and envision a greater life? Is the physicality of my life mirroring that? And so sometimes when we have deviated so far that our life doesn't even come close, and that's okay. That's how most creative processes begin. The opportunity, we call it divine discontent. Something's calling us, something that we know can be different, is yearning to be expressed differently. Those are I call it tappings, right? So I'm going to do it here, EFT moment, but something has caught our attention that we're ready, willing to change or to adopt a new level of life or level of living. And it not always comes through a place of peace or a space of grace. There is grace there, but we're not always conscious of it. It's usually something that's very uncomfortable for us, something that, again, has brought us to our knees, but we're not always identifying it as a spiritual urge. So when we assess, we then begin to have a greater clarity or a greater understanding of the things that are in alignment with our value system or out of alignment with our value system. And when we can be really clear about what is in alignment or out of alignment, that's when we begin to make the shifts, okay? So when I became aware that my life was out of alignment with my core values or what I knew to be true for me, for this body, for this being, no matter what others were telling me, I began to seek counsel. I began to identify the areas that had to be changed. So that's really kind of the action of two, right? So we assess, and then we identify the area that is most glaring, the part of your life that feels most uncomfortable, that needs to be, I'm going to call it life or death, right? It's the thing that can no longer be ignored. Maybe some of the other things can be sidestepped, because we know that once we focus or fine tune our awareness on the one area of our life, we begin to trust and know that the other areas will follow suit. The other areas will, in time, we can take action. But to think that we can naively take action in every arena can create sometimes a greater disruption than focusing on one area. Spiritually speaking, or biblically speaking, they say if the eye is single, then the whole body shall be full of light. And so really that becomes the practice. Forgive me. Is to pick that area of that I'm willing to focus on, and when I focus so spiritually intently there, then everything else does become illuminated and I can see it more clearly. So I always say pick an area of your life. Once I assess, I pick an area of my life that allows me to again focus and get greater clarity and a sense of ease in the creative process. The third thing that I've had to do was seek outside counsel, because I was uncomfortable and I was doing some of the things that other people suggested to me. I wasn't finding my solution. And when I became willing to look outside of my current paradigm and seek outside counsel, what began to happen is a team, I can literally say a team of practitioners revealed themselves. Things that I'd never heard of, things I'd never really thought of that could assist me in my healing. And in my on my website, you'll see healing therapies, natural therapies, a page for that. We'll make sure we'll click a link in that in our description. But I had to really begin to seek outside counsel and try things, become willing to try things that I guess in my heart knew would be useful, as much as my head had no understanding of it. And sometimes we have to really kind of, as much, I always say the way, well, spiritually speaking, we say again, the head to the heart is the longest journey. And I think sometimes I'm grateful for that disconnect, because I would have spent a lot of time trying to make sense out of something that made no sense. It was just something that I was being guided to do. And I'm grateful for that today. So once I began seeking outside counsel, and we seek outside counsel, then some new answers come, some new opportunities come. And the greatest thing that we can do in those moments is take the action. Don't think about it. You got to take the action. We have to become willing just to take something, I call it goofy footing, right? It's like if we always put our pants on with our right leg, we try to put our pants on with our left leg. We try to do things that are kind of counterintuitive to us, that are really are really more of a habit. We talk about the power of habit. Our lives are constructs of habitual thinking and habitual behavior. And so when we're ready to deconstruct that because we're discontent, then we have to be willing to try things that feel out of the ordinary, extraordinary, right? And so the action is important. And for me, because I had a beautiful team of people, practitioners, mentors who were supporting me in this new shift, this new evolution, what I became willing to do is to ask for support in that action. I still to this day, and everything that I share in my videos, just know that everything that I suggest, everything that I am sharing are all things that I have done and continue to do. I still have mentors in my life. I still bookend. I still, when I'm going through a growth opportunity and I'm feeling uncomfortable, I still assess. I still focus on the most important aspect of the change. I still become willing to ask for outside counsel, and I still take action. And most importantly, I am persistent. That's the fifth tool that I can possibly say, is being persistent, because change, evolution, depending upon how long we've lived a certain way, or how long we've held the theology, or how long we have habituated the behaviors, it can sometimes take a lifetime to change. I know people who have practiced things and and this is, I think, where that principle of enjoying the journey, just being grateful that we're on the path and we're awakened to the change and that we're in the process of change, no matter what the destination is. It's being able to be grateful for the opportunity to say, I am being persistent about this shift. Ernest Holmes always talked about, you treat and move your feet, and you treat until you have a demonstration, which means that you do not stop praying for, moving toward, shifting, evolving, or being receptive to what would be perceived as a miracle, that demonstration, until you actually have it. And I'm going to go beyond that, because in Hollowell's book of Universal Laws, he talks about sometimes we'll have a demonstration, which means we'll have sometimes a spontaneous healing, or we'll have something that feels like a spontaneous healing. Let me rephrase that. We'll have an experience of what we're moving toward, or in the expansion to, and then it goes away, right? Sometimes we'll demonstrate a relationship and then the relationship fades away. We'll demonstrate financial prosperity and the finances dwindle. We'll demonstrate a new car crash, the car is gone. Like, there are so many little stories that I've heard over the course of years where people have the demonstration and then it goes away. And that just merely means it's proof or evidence that you're on the right path, and yet there's more growth to become, and to be that sustained level of consciousness. We say consciousness precedes form. And so that's that persistence. It's like the more I can practice the new way of thinking, habituate through affirmations, through the hypnosis, habituate through EFT, habituate through, and it's really becoming a new, guess what, person, that all of a sudden the world appears new because I am different. So for my world, my physical life to change, there are the 5 things. I get to be, word have to, should, could. I used, I think, all of those terms. But the reality is that we have to be willing to assess or take a look, because we cannot live in denial. We can't get to the new place from denial, so we must assess. And once we get that assessment done, it's definitely going to clarify that area of your life that feels most uncomfortable for you. That could be that area that you focus on. And once you start focusing there, the rest will, the path will be illuminated, and you will begin to see through this identification other areas that will kind of follow suit in time. You'll seek outside counsel, because that outside counsel will have new ideas, new ways of getting you from point A to point Z, maybe ways that you're not familiar with, which is fantastic, because sometimes we know too much to be willing to be open and available to newness. So outside counsel, taking action. And once we take action, that success propels more success, because we start feeling like we're in the groove. We start feeling like we're moving in the direction of. There gathers a momentum, an interest, a level of intrigue, a passion, and a persistence, because that persistence is what keeps me going on a daily basis. There are certain things that I will rotate in and out of in terms of a spiritual practice, but there are absolutely things that are undeniable, and I cannot live my life. It'd be like not breathing, as far as like meditation and things like that. So again, thank you for tuning into my channel. If you have any questions about the content, if you'd like to know more about the assessments, whether it's a life assessment or a fitness assessment, feel free to message me, call me. My information will be in the description below, and I look forward to hearing from you. Make sure you thumbs up, share the information with others, or anyone you think is maybe going through a challenging time who could be of benefit, or this video could be a benefit to. Peace out. Have a great day.